Hey everyone, Clay here. Just wanted to let you know I've got a new comic book out right now from Comixology Originals and Amazon. It's called Hardstyle Juice. It's a professional wrestling murder mystery, so if you're into pro wrestling and comics and all that good stuff, you're going to want to check it out. And it's free to read if you have Amazon Prime. It's a digital-only comic. If you want to check it out, head over to hardstylejuice.com, and that'll direct you right to the page where you can check it out. That's hardstylejuice.com. Thanks, guys. Hello. Welcome to BATTASS Podcast, the Batman the Animated Series show podcast, where we talk about Batman the Animated Series. My name is Clay McCormack, and with me, as always, is Sean Murphy. How you doing, Sean?
We were hanging out last week, and you were telling me about how you try not to buy cars until you absolutely need one.
Try is not the word. It's you cannot afford to.
But when you do, they're at least 10 years apart, so you get upgraded a generation overnight. It's like, holy shit, I get like Google Bluetooth now for free. I don't have to buy a TomTom for directions. It just comes with GPS. I feel you, man. I've been looking at cars lately, and I'm upgrading a whole generation. I'm just like, man, even as a car guy, I'm sort of caught off guard by what's just included now.
Yeah, I feel like they're now just adding stuff because it seems cool more than it is actually like a beneficial thing. Like I'm maybe this is just an old man yelling at cloud thing, but I don't love all of the extra sensors and stuff that they put in for like when you're going over the line, because I just think that that's going to breed a generation of drivers that when that stuff breaks, they're going to be too over reliant on it. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, man. I mean, I'm going to buy this Volvo that's really nice. 455 horsepower hybrid, which is strange. Like
plug-in hybrid?
Electric. Yeah. It's wild. Like you plug it in and it's on electric for 30 miles and then it runs out and then the hybrid kicks in and then it's like fuel, and energy just mixing, just like your car right now. So you can get like a car that's faster than most Ferraris and an SUV that's a plug-in hybrid that technically gets like 50 miles a gallon. It's wild, Yeah. And you don't get there without computers and stuff. And with that comes like, lane assist. You push a button on this thing and you're on the highway and it automatically just starts driving for you, turning its own wheel, adjusting the brakes, making sure it doesn't slam into the guy in front of you.
Oh shit.
I agree with you. Like it just increases the odds someone's going to start texting on their phone and stop paying attention to driving altogether, you know?
Yeah. I feel like that stuff needs to be an all or nothing situation. Like we either have driverless cars or we don't. I think this halfway stuff is going to cause accidents.
This is actually a good segue into the book that you and I are doing. I guess we can talk about it after we talk about these two episodes.
Sure.
We're doing a book called The Last Driver, which I don't know if I've teased here yet, but it kind of has to do with some of this stuff. And a lot of old driver yelling at cloud, I guess.
Anyway. Before we get into that, we're going to get into 2 episodes of Batman Beyond. Today we're going to be doing Inqueling and Big Time. So we're going to take a quick break and come back and talk about those.
After all I gave you, how could you have turned out like this?
You never gave me anything except money, Mother. How did you expect me to turn out?
All right, Inqueling. Written by Hilary J. Bader, directed by Butch Lukic. And in this one, after Ink's latest employer betrays her and blasts her with an experimental weapon that causes her body to slowly dissolve, she is forced to turn to someone whom she has not seen in years, her daughter. So this is the return of Inque, who is probably one of the better new villains from Batman Beyond. But man, they are really... they know this is the last season, huh? They just keep bringing these people back and just killing them off.
When this started, I was like, whoa, we've got the normal Batman Beyond episode setup. We've got a subplot with a daughter when the mom asks her to steal, which is interesting. And then we've got Terry's girlfriend possibly knowing that he's Batman, teased. We've got two really good subplots. So I sort of leaned forward. I'm like, do we have a 4 out of 5 finally? And annoyingly, they kind of drop the ball on both and don't follow through the way I would have hoped.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this one is one more scene away from being like a top 5er for Batman Beyond, because I think like the stuff with the daughter is really interesting, but they need like one more scene with her to really kind of drill down a little bit more into what's going on with her and the relationship with her mom and stuff.
Totally.
But they're so close.
Yeah, like they don't even show the scene where the daughter pulls off the heist. Like you could have had the daughter like breaking glass and the mom's like, it's okay, you can do this, and the daughter's hesitant and the mom's kind of like walking her through how to be a criminal. And it's the first time that they've ever gotten to do anything together, like a mother-daughter trip in some ways. You could have had so much potential for character building, and instead Batman shows up and the heist has been completed, and then the daughter is just very cold about killing her mother and taking her fortune.
Incredibly cold. Yeah. If this was a Batman the Animated Series episode, I don't think Batman would be in it other than at the beginning and the end. I think this would have been mostly Inque and her daughter, and I think that would have been really good. Yeah.
I'm here for that, because I don't recall another villain who had a son or a daughter and needed their help all of a sudden in animated series.
Yeah, no, it's funny because the first thing I started thinking of in this episode was the one with Rupert Thorne and his brother, who's the priest.
Oh, the P.O. I'll think of it later.
Yeah, I forget what the name of it.
I know what you mean. I love that one.
Yeah, because it had that. It seemed like it was going to have that kind of vibe to it, but it obviously skews towards Batman Beyond, which means there's a 15-minute fight in the middle of it.
Yeah.
It opens pretty fun. The horizontal rocket firing is pretty good. Like that's one of those things where if you've ever set off fireworks inappropriately, you know how scary that can be, and just imagine if that was a space rocket that fell on its side.
Right. Oh man. So it's funny because 4th of July is coming up, and my father used to explode a lot of fireworks when we were younger, and he was really into these small little rockets that we called whistle missiles.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And they had their own plastic. They were like the size of a glue stick. They had their own plastic base. But the thing is, the plastic mold, the way they inexpensively made these things in China, the plastic mold base was never flat, so they kind of tipped over. So as soon as you lit it, you were kind of wanted to turn around and walk away very quickly. And sometimes it would tip over and hit you in the back or hit your kids on the stairs, in my case.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. We had a similar experience one year. My friends and I were hanging out in New Hampshire. I guess this is just a New Hampshire thing. And
actually, it might be just because they allow, the New Hampshire's more liberal with fireworks.
Yes.
At least it used to be.
Yeah. One of our friends had brought, this is when we were like in our 20s, so we had a couple dollars to spend. And one of our friends spent probably like $200 on fireworks and just brought a shitload of fireworks up. And there was this one in particular that sounds like it's similar to what you're talking about, but it was like 15 of them in a box that you lit off all at the same time.
Yeah.
And so we're all kind of standing back, watching Flynn light them off. He lights this thing off. I don't know I can't remember if it fell over on its own or if it was like when the first one went off. But it fell over onto its side and pointed directly at the crowd of people who were watching. And so we all immediately started running as this thing starts firing off. It was like being in a Vietnam movie or something. It was wild.
There's that fireworks chain called Phantom, and they're like the Walmart of fireworks.
Yeah.
And I fucking hate their logo because they have this comic book character Phantom that's just like a generic dude with a mask and a generic purple hood. And whenever I see one of those things, it annoys me. Like I want to write to this company and be like, look, I'll redesign this for you for free. I'm just tired of you looking at this thing.
You hear that? If anyone from Phantom Fireworks listens to this, Sean Murphy will redesign the logo for your company for free.
Yeah, there's a few YouTube channels like follow who are car channels, and they have T-shirts and little tiny design things. And again, I'm like, listen, I really like you, Donut Media, but you need way better T-shirts. And like, I'll do this for you for free because I'm tired of you embarrassing yourself. You have like 4 million followers, and you don't have time to hire a cool designer for your shirts. Like,
it's so frustrating. Like I honestly, the thing that always stands out to me is they're a little bit better now, but there was a run for about 10 years where WWE wrestling shirts were probably the most poorly designed shirts I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, I'm looking at these things going, I guess they sell enough that they don't even care. And because you put John Cena on a shirt, it doesn't matter. It's going to sell millions of copies of that shirt. So you don't have to. Yeah. But people like me, the discerning, aesthetically minded wrestling fan, always holds out for the better design. And I've got a couple that I think are really good, but not a ton.
For those who don't know, Clay is very particular about his shirts. It has to be the right type of sci-fi nerdy callback. Can't be too on the nose. It has to have a Hitchcockian design to it, and it can't be something everyone else is already wearing. It's very particular what threads the needle for Clay when it comes to the right type of T-shirt design.
I've loosened my parameters in the last handful of years. I don't know if that's because of my own I don't care anymore, or if just because the T-shirt companies, honestly, across the board, it's tough to find stuff like that. Like every now and then you'll find there's a great company that I love, but their shirts are just too expensive because they ship from England. It's called Last Exit to Nowhere, and it's sort of where I developed this thing I was into.
It's already very you. Just the title of it.
Yeah.
It's like Last Driving on the Left.
But the thing, because especially if you're in college, when I first found these, you want to be able to represent your nerdiness, but not broadcast it to everybody. So this company specialized in T-shirts that are logos of companies from movies. And it's fantastic. So you can get like the Spinner logo from Blade Runner, or the White Dragon Noodle Bar logo, which is super awesome because it's got that dragon and stuff on it. That. It's real, and the T-shirts are great quality. They are not sponsoring this podcast, but I would love it if they did. I could talk. I could gripe about T-shirts for an hour because they're too expensive now.
It's so funny. So I found this website that did these TNG Star Trek shirts, and it was like episode by episode, and they were like the right type of Hitchcockian design. And I'm like, man, I want to buy one for Clay as a gift, but I don't want to send him a link because he might buy the one I want to buy for him. So I got it for you. And then I was like, I don't know if you've actually gone back, or I don't know what your T-shirt needs are these days, but I thought that site was pretty crazy.
It was. Yeah, they had some cool ones. I haven't gone back and bought another one. The one that you got me was pretty great. But,
yeah. It's funny. When you wanted a nerdy comic book T-shirt 15 years ago, you had to either get something very generic, like a Walmart style shirt of your character Spider-Man from the 80s, or if you wanted to be classy, you could get a silk X-Men shirt. Do you remember these?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, I remember a friend of mine, a fellow student of mine was all about these. And, like, I got to admit, like, if I'm going to hang out with someone who's at a convention, we're all going to get drunk together, and I prefer someone who grooms and thinks about what they're going to wear. And usually people who wore those shirts put some thought into it, But it's nice now because you can have real nerdy on the DL shirts. Like, I've got a few car shirts that if you look real closely, you realize you're actually looking at a Transformers shirt, and I'm very happy with those.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, don't come at me for my aesthetic choices. You're doing the same thing.
No. I'm not giving you. I have my own version of being. I'm a shirt snob in my own way.
It's honestly though, I think it's cool. The style seems to be more towards the silk shirt because it's like there's Jesus Christ, we have to talk about this show. We have a heart out today. But there's this one site that I look at every now and then that they just do all over designs, and so you can get like a pair of gym shorts that are just covered top to bottom with Galactus's face, or something like that. So apparently that's the hip way to do it. But we're old now. Anyway, back to the show. Well, I liked the absence of Bruce in this episode. I like that Terry is kind of... I think it's a really good setup, especially with this character, for Terry to feel like he needs to take the opportunity to do this himself. But even there, like, I feel like maybe the problem with this episode is they've got 3 things going that would all be really great episodes on their own, but they're all kind of jammed in and not really given enough space individually. Because, like, I feel like Terry trying to prove himself on his own could be an entire episode by itself. The Inque and the daughter thing could be an episode by itself.
Yeah. I think I would have tried to push for this to be a 2-parter. I mean, Batman out of town, leaving Terry alone is already interesting.
Yeah.
You can get most of an episode out of that. And then setting up the daughter and doing a flashback when Inque had a kid and she felt awful because she had to leave her behind. Like, there's some really good stuff to mine there, and they just fucking skipped it, you know?
Yeah, you get no indication whatsoever what Inque's feeling about her daughter is.
Yeah.
She's just like, I'm your mother. And that's kind of it. Deanna kind of is pretty okay with her being around very quickly. Obviously, I guess it's just for money. But even the money thing, it's like, that makes sense as the way the episode goes, but it's not really that investigated. You get the one scene where she needs money for her car. Also, I don't think you can just hand a repo guy a credit card and they let your car go. I'm pretty sure that's not how it works, but... It is a kid show.
Yeah. That's what annoyed me in that sequence is the black stripe was absolutely facing the wrong way every single fucking swipe.
Yes. The black stripe was on the top and not on the part that you swipe.
You know, I've heard of because this stuff's animated in the Far East, Japan, whatever it is. And sometimes they get stuff wrong. Like, I have a friend who a long time ago was animating, and they had the storyboards for someone eating a slice of pizza.
Oh, yeah.
And at the time, the Japanese didn't seem to understand with the pointy end went into your face before the crust. So they got the sequence back where they have a character eating a pizza crust first, and they had to have it fixed. I don't know, like, Japanese people have credit cards with swiping on the back.
Yeah.
Like, why would this...
That's a weird one to screw up, especially because it's every time. So it was clearly a conscious choice that was made.
Yeah, I don't know about the Repo Man having a Hitler mustache. You catch that?
I missed that one.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I wonder what the Hitler mustache would have been without Hitler. Like, would we see hipsters today in coffee shops with that?
Probably.
Or,
I mean, Charlie Chaplin was making it work, and then Hitler had to come and ruin it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. There has to be a celebrity fight match between... claymation match between Charlie Chaplin and Hitler.
Michael Jordan really flexed his muscles by bringing the Hitler mustache back for a while, and nobody seemed to care. Or I think everybody noticed, but was like, well, Michael Jordan, so we're not going to say anything.
Did he really? It's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard to, because if it's short enough, and he is African American.
No,
so
it was, dude.
Pop.
It was in like commercials. They were like Hanes commercials where he's on a plane, and then they cut to him and he's got this fucking mustache, which is which is an extra flex because clearly he had it when he got there, and you know that there was someone like a PA or a producer or something going, we can't let him have that mustache, can we? And then there was another one going, are you going to tell Michael Jordan to shave? Because I know that you're not.
All right, I'm looking it up right now. He is in a white t-shirt on a plane. He has a little bit of a soul patch under it, so maybe that's why
that's why it's okay.
It gets a patch, because that's what Hitler didn't do that.
No, he didn't.
Nor could he take the Bulls to a 7-time in a row world championship dynasty or whatever the hell he did.
I'm gonna say, we don't know. Let's be fair. We don't know that for sure.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna say you're probably right.
I don't know if Hitler had mad ups, but probably did not.
He could set a mean pick, though.
Was Charlie Chaplin Jewish?
Ooh, great question.
If he was, then that rematch thing makes more sense.
I don't remember.
I don't want to stereotype. I did assume that Chaplin was Jewish.
I think he might have been. I honestly can't remember though. But as we know, this season I just make up facts and say them very, confidently.
You think Timothy Dalton is in everything for some reason.
Yeah, everywhere I
you
look.
Thought George, whatever, was the other Bond was dead.
Well,
and
he
he's
deserves
alive.
to be. My favorite part of this episode was when Terry incapacitates Inque and then just shoves her into a bag. He just had like a collapsible bag. He just goes like, flap, and then he just grabs her and shoves her into this bag.
So Charlie Chaplin is not Jewish.
Great, thank you for looking at that.
Everyone assumed he was, and he did little to correct the record. Britain spies were after him because they thought he was... this is more than I need to get into right now. I know we've got a hard out here, but there seems to be some interesting shit here that I'll get to later.
Yeah, Chaplin had a very interesting life.
Okay.
The first movie he made where he talked was The Great Dictator, where he spends the end of the movie dressed like Hitler, basically cutting a promo on him. So
that's also where we first saw a young Timothy Dalton.
That's true. This is true. Look it up. Timothy Dalton's very old man.
God rest his soul. Rest in peace, Timothy. Oh man.
The fight with Inque is pretty good. I mean, Inque is always... I think they're always going to bring out the good animation for Inque because it's so much fun. Yeah. What? You got any other thoughts about this one?
No. I basically described how I feel. If I had to draw something, I think I would draw the rocket thing at the beginning.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't think I've ever gotten to draw a big rocket type tape off. I've done like NASA style space vehicles in space, but not like an actual rocket ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Would you do? You could do an entire issue, 22 pages, fold out horizontally. That's just the rocket horizontally smashing through Gotham City.
Ooh, that's cool. I don't think I've ever seen a comic that's, printed like that. A really tall comic.
Oh no, I'm saying horizontally. So it's like
all right.
You're watching the rocket go, but I don't think they've done that either. There's a book by a guy named Jason Copeland called Full Tilt that I think did something that was a big multi-page fold out, which it looked pretty cool.
I know Copeland. I think I know that name.
Yeah.
Is he in animation with like 3 kids?
I honestly don't know. I just know him from the internet.
All right, cool.
Good artist,
I think I know him. Yeah.
What would I draw? I had it, but I didn't write it down. Correct credit cards.
Yeah, just the scene with the repo guy.
Yeah. No,
where you would have him checking a license plates on very famous sci-fi cars.
Yeah. I would probably do. I'm going to be lazy and say the fight with Inque. I mean, that stuff is really fun to do. And you can go all sorts of different directions with that. They do some cool stuff in this one where I think she has a couple extra arms at a certain point, and that stuff is always fun.
The animation. Oh, I thought of you at the end when she dissolves into a puddle with her face. I thought Clay's gonna want to draw that
because it's easy to draw a puddle with a face in it.
Well, you get to draw a distorted female face, like melting away.
Oh, and that's true. We all know how much I hate the perfect female face.
Well, yeah, I don't love drawing faces either. But if I can draw a distorted one and make it, oozy and weird, then I'm all for that.
Yeah, that stuff is fun. What would you rate this one?
I'm gonna go 4 just to be different.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna.
But let's be clear, it's a 3.
Yeah,
but I just need to say something other than 4, other than 3.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna also say 4. Based entirely on potential, which is very frustrating, but this is where we are with Batman Beyond.
Oh God, people who love the show, like, I need to find a real huge fan that can really defend it. Like, I need the best arguments for why the show is heralded.
I think, honestly, I think it's going to be people who were of a certain age when it was on.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be tough to find someone who came to this show like we did in our late 30s, early 40s, and go like, you know what, this is the one. Whereas, and unfortunately, that is a failing of the show because as much as it is a kids show, I feel like people still go to Batman the Animated Series who were not kids then and watch that and go, oh shit, this is actually pretty good. Yeah,
good writing is good writing. Period. Doesn't matter.
Right.
So the other. I have not seen all of the Justice League stuff. I know there's the 2 different series.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've heard people defend them and love them. The ones I've seen have a bit of the Batman Beyond editing in them, where they're never allowed to go too deep or mysterious or really indulge in side characters, like really indulge like the way Batman the animated series would.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so many brightly colored costumes that it ended up being more of a lighthearted romp in a way.
Yeah.
Which, like I was thinking, because this is what WB Animation was doing, Batman Beyond, did this affect Justice League? Like, is Justice League just a bunch of 3 out of 5 episodes as well?
That's what I'm wondering too. Yeah, if we ever, I think if we ever get around to doing Justice League, that might be a conversation we have to have if we get through like 2 seasons of it, and we're like, all right, this is just going to be 5 seasons of Batman Beyond. Is this really worth doing?
We could have a podcast where we talk about T-shirts we like and never run out of.
You know what? That's fantastic audio material. To specifically 2 guys just trying to describe T-shirts to each other.
This Volvo SUV I'm buying apparently has the best sound system, and one of the reviews said it's the best system on the planet for listening to podcasts in your car.
That is the faintest praise I have ever heard given to an automobile.
They're like, he goes, put it in orchestra mode. You'll be blown away. And I thought, man, I've listened to a lot of podcasts where the recording is not good. I don't think the speakers will fix that.
Yeah, I mean, if it makes 2 guys talking about Batman sound like we're doing it from Carnegie Hall, I guess that's great.
Yeah, I'm excited to pick this thing up and put it in a sweet podcast and show it to you and see what you think about the speaker system.
The bass on these dick jokes is incredible.
I've never heard Bill Burr sound so angry. He's like he's right here.
Oh, anyway, I think that's going to do it for Inqueling. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with Big Time.
Charlie was 18 and I was 14. My folks were breaking up and he and I were being angry kids, busting windows, shoplifting. Then Charlie decided to prove himself to this big gang and he dragged me along on a heist. I didn't even know what we were doing till he was climbing in the window.
But you went in too.
Never said I was bright.
Okay, Big Time. Story by Robert Goodman and Tom Ruger. Teleplay by Robert Goodman. Directed by James Tucker. From this one, when a friend from Terry's troubled past, Charlie, quote, Big Time Bigelow, returns, Terry tries to stop him from repeating his mistakes and going back to jail. However, when Charlie ends up helping a gang of crooks rob a Wayne Powers research lab, he's exposed to a dangerous experimental chemical and mutates into a monstrous giant. I think this is very much of a piece with the last episode, where it has a good concept that is kind of interesting that then just turns into a Batman Beyond episode.
Yeah. It is worth noting the cast for this. They got William H. Macy, Stephen Baldwin, Clancy Brown.
Robert Patrick.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. The guy.
Oh, that's who that was.
Yeah, the guy he was, what's his name? Richie. The guy he was in jail with was Robert Patrick, yeah.
I knew, okay. He sounded familiar.
And this is late 90s. Like, these are all well-known actors. I mean, I guess of the 3 of them, William H. Macy is probably the one who's doing the best in his career at that moment. But still, this is not a small get for the show, I would think.
But they must have said, you know what, we have $20,000 left for this episode. Do we want to rewrite the script and make it good? Or do we want to hire Stephen Baldwin? And they're like, Baldwin. I'm really, maybe it's indicative of how the pricing works for these things based on who's playing what characters, because Stephen Baldwin, I'm going to say probably the cheapest of the 3, has the most lines, and William H. Macy, who I'm going to probably assume it was the most expensive at the time, has the fewest lines. And him being a bad guy and not he always plays like a sad sack white salesman of some kind.
Yeah. Well, it would be very problematic if he played anything other than a white salesman, but
not according to Richard Dreyfuss.
Well, I don't know if that's where I'm going to get most of my stat update on the culture.
He seems pretty convinced, Clay.
Yeah.
He seems like he's thought about it.
Well,
I had no idea that he went off the rails a year ago. I guess I missed the memo.
Yeah.
Because he was at a show recently, and people were like, why is he here? And I didn't know.
Yep. Got to yell at clouds somewhere. Get paid to do it. May as well.
I remember. I didn't know who Stephen Baldwin was. He's the joke of the Baldwin brothers, right?
I guess that depends on how you define it. He is the least serious actor, I would say. Let's put it that way.
Was he in Biodome?
He was in Biodome.
Okay, that's the guy. I'm sorry if he's a big fan of this show. But I remember in the late 90s, my friend had the Playboy channel and Cinemax, and his dad stopped paying. So all of a sudden, it all got scrambled on the black box. And you remember watching Cinemax black box, and you tuned in like past 11 p.m., you might see a boob. Like in between the shifting colors, you kind of turn your head sideways and squint. You're like, yeah. And back then, that was the only way, sort of before the internet really hit like it has today. And I remember some movie watching, and I'm like, is Stephen Baldwin going to bang that girl? Am I going to see her boobs finally? And I don't think I ever did. I'm trying to remember what movie that was. All right, now you talk for a while.
Oh, boy. Well, Stephen Baldwin actually has, as far as the Baldwin brothers go outside of Alec, he might have... He was in Biodome, and the other one he was in that was a big deal was The Usual Suspects, which might be a bigger hit, at least, well, maybe not anymore, but it might be a bigger cultural hit than anything either of the other two brothers did.
Right.
One of them was in Backdraft. I have an encyclopedic knowledge of the Baldwin family. I don't know if you knew this, but and Daniel Baldwin was in John Carpenter's Vampires, which is one of my favorite movies, but I don't think anybody else's favorite movie.
So I put in Stephen Baldwin nude.
Okay, great.
I don't know why I did that.
Excellent.
I've just screwed up my... The FBI is now watching me.
We've got like 20 minutes. I'm glad we're spending it on this.
Including a movie called Posse, Crime Time, Friends and Lovers. I don't know.
Yeah,
Again,
if anyone out there wants to watch those movies and get back to Sean on whether or not he does in fact bang that girl, that would be great for us.
Not just that. Do we get to see her boobs?
Yeah, very important.
I was very clear on this, Clay. All right. So
what if it turns out you were just ogling Stephen Baldwin's naked chest the entire time? I think that would be very progressive of you for how young you are.
I was accidentally ogling I got nothing. Let's go back to the episode.
I think it's a pretty good setup for a story with you get a character from... It's a classic. They do this in everything. They've done this in Miami Vice. They do this in cop shows all the time, where it's, Crockett's old friend comes back who's been undercover for too long or whatever, or somebody has a friend who's been in jail and gets out of jail, and
huge trope.
Yeah, are they really going legit? And they usually don't, and it's always depressing. Speaking of, this is a very depressing episode. The end is a downer.
Yeah. Have we seen a Terry meets an old friend who's into crime episode before?
I don't think so, because this is the one that explains why Terry was in juvie.
Oh, right.
Which is a detail I completely forgot about until this episode. But
yeah. Well, he talks a lot about being a troubled kid, do a lot of crazy things, but I sort of forgot what the hell that they were.
Apparently he was running around with those Baldwin boys. Got him in trouble.
I thought I saw Terry in the background that scrambled behind that boob I was looking for. When I was doing Beyond the White Knight, I remember I'm like, all right, I need to give Terry a nod to something bad that Terry used to be involved in. And I didn't have a lot of space because Terry wasn't really a main character. So I think we ended up making him get into a fist fight with a bunch of Azraels. And then maybe one panel of him hanging out with some like skeevy looking sci-fi punks with graffiti in the background, like kids who were up to no good. I think that's really all I had time to sell what Terry had done that was bad, but I don't know. You get the idea.
Yeah. But yeah, how do you feel about this story? I think it's close to being really good, but they just sort of don't drill down into anything interesting.
I feel like the monster transformation is something more likely to win you over, but lose me. I'm just not into that genre as much. But I feel like for you, if it's done poorly, you're not going to be interested in it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think if it works for the story, it works for me. But I don't know. It was kind of, again, there's just so much stuff going on that's just a bunch of kind of disparate elements where it's kind of this character thing, but then his buddy turns into a weird tumor monster, which, all right.
Toxic Crusader. Did you think the story could have worked better when he turned into a mutant, or would it have been better if he didn't?
I think it would have probably been better if he didn't. But again, Batman Beyond, got to do something, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Someone was saying that on Reddit forum that they thought this character should have been introduced earlier, and it could have been Terry's Two-Face.
Oh, that's kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a pretty decent idea, actually.
Yeah, I think it's tough because he's not exactly a mentally proficient villain once he turns into the monster.
Yeah,
but
you need the tweaks stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like the idea. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. What would you prefer? Would you prefer it's a character that we'd seen a number of times, or do you like the trope of the person from the past coming back?
I think that it should have been a regular character from season 1 who goes to this long arc, and we see him get out of juvie, try to get his life straightened out, fail, resorts to crime, fights Terry without realizing it, Batman. It could have been a nice reminder of what Terry was trying to escape by using to work with Bruce. And there's so many nothing episodes in this series that, like, those sound like a bunch of 4s to me, at least, you know?
Yeah. I think I don't know. You know, it's tough because I think that trope works for a reason, because it is something you can do relatively quickly. You know, you bring a guy in your cold open, the main character goes, Jimmy or whatever, and then the next act is explaining to the partner who this guy is and what the connection is, and then it's like, no, but he's really going straight this time, and obviously then it doesn't end up happening, and then the partner goes, I told you so.
Yeah. There's also usually some like street hip hop music in the background when the kid starts resorting to his old like even in this one you had I mean, it was nice not to hear wow 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 all the time. It actually had some kind of like thuggish hip hop in it, which then I was like, is this racist?
Yeah, that's
you know, maybe
retrospectively not the best choice, but
yeah, it reminds me of when in Rocky 4 when his kid starts to get involved with the wrong crowd.
That's Rocky 5, my friend.
Oh shit, sorry.
Nothing but love from Rocky Jr. in part 4.
But what about that cool earring he had in part 5?
Yeah, I'm sure that was great. I've watched that movie once, I think, in my life.
Yeah, I could do a whole podcast about that one. I used to be able to defend it okay, but I don't know if I can. I used to be able to defend Star Trek Voyager, but apparently I can't do that anymore.
Well, we all know how much you love fancy earrings and giant fur coats, so I can see why that would be an easy defense for you.
I'm trying to think of what I want to draw in this. I don't want to draw the monster because there's nothing that stands out about him. He's just a pretty typical looking sludgy mutant that gets hit by a cop car in RoboCop.
Yes. Now, if that was in the episode, I would draw that. If that's how the episode ended, is his friend gets hit by a car and explodes like the guy in RoboCop, every time. Instant draw.
Yeah. I thought one of the gang members, the older guys, it was like he was wearing these Wolverine claws.
Yeah, he had weird Wolverine claws that were like attached to the inside of his hand.
Yeah, it was like a balding, short-haired trench coat Gambit with Wolverine attachments.
Yeah, I've had that dream.
And then his two friends. He would be a interesting cosplay.
Yes.
At a show. Like, guess what? Guess who I am?
Get a lot of questions.
No one knows. He's like, future Wolverine?
Are you in the...
Everyone thinks I am, but I'm not.
Are you in the wrong place? Yeah. Did you notice that, once again, I think if this show was done now, a lot more attention would be brought to the fact that Terry is a much more ruthless Batman than Bruce is, because in this one, the Wolverine hands guy, he doesn't even make a move to save that guy when he falls off the balcony. Right. And they have to go out of their way to be like, he's in the ICU, he's alive.
Yeah, it's funny. When that happened, I'm like, really, Terry? You're not going to try to save that dude's life?
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing where Bruce, maybe it's, I really want to not think that the people making the show weren't paying attention to this stuff, because I feel like they must have been. Right. A lot of these people were working on the animated series, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But like, it's so strange to have Terry do this kind of stuff repeatedly, and Bruce never brings it up. Like, there's never a point where he's like, you shouldn't let people explode like that, Terry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe there's one episode where they talk about it, but he clearly didn't learn the lesson.
Man, I would love an episode where Terry accidentally lets someone die, and it's all about the fallout, and Bruce has to explain why that's really bad and why they don't play it that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think the only way you could do that on this show is if it was a Michael Douglas in the game type situation, where at the end Bruce goes like, see, he's alive, he's not dead, but you learned a lesson, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. You'd have to have a guy in a coma who's about to die, and Bruce is like using his money to influence to hire a really good surgeon to try to save this very petty criminal, and flying in a special type of heart transplant and doing all this shit. And Terry's like, I know I slipped up, but this is a bad person. Why do you care so much about him? I don't think that's for a kid's show, but I would love to see that episode.
Yeah, it's a shame that I guess Terry continues in comics, but he's never really come back in anything else, has he?
Yeah, I don't recall Terry. So Beyond never really went away. There's always been Batman Beyond comics, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
But in a way, it made it so we sort of easy to forget about Terry, because he's not in the main canon in any significant way that I know. I'm sure there's fans who would disagree, but
yeah, I'm kind of shocked that he never. Well, I guess he wasn't as big a deal as Miles Morales, but they never did the retroactive add him to the status quo thing like they did with Miles Morales. Like, there's never been a story, one of the many crisis stories or something, where Terry McGinnis shows up. I mean, maybe there has been, but he hasn't stuck around. But they've never brought Terry into the present day Gotham City and just made him part of the fabric.
Yeah. Like, imagine if we hadn't seen Terry comics for 10 years, and then they did bring him back in a big event.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a multiverse or time travel story. I don't know what you would do, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's. I wonder if there's any sort of rights things involved with some of these cartoon characters. Only because, like, I think Phantasm only made it into the comics a few years ago. I think Tom King brought Phantasm into the Batman Catwoman book he was doing, or one of the other books. And like, that's the only. I've never seen Phantasm in the comics outside of animated series stuff.
I know legally, or I don't know if it's legally, I know that Warner Brothers doesn't. So I had a scene where I wanted in White Knight to quote a Phantasm line or show a scene from something, or I can't remember what it was, but I wanted to basically quote something from a movie of Warner Brothers, a cartoon, and DC was like, we can't do that. That's a different department. They won't allow it. And I thought, really, it's all Warner Brothers. Like, who cares? And they're very clear about it. So I couldn't tell you why, but yeah, they are very careful when there's crossover.
Did you have any pushback when you put Grey Ghost in Harley Quinn?
No, because Grey Ghost has been kind of made appearances in comics for a while.
Oh, okay.
Not just the animated comics. I feel like he's been floating in the zeitgeist for a bit, so it didn't seem like that big of a deal. But that's a good question.
Yeah. Well,
I'd love to see like the history of Grey Ghost in comics. Like, maybe it's not as ubiquitous as I thought.
Yeah. Well, we did run into that big problem in the last issue of Beyond the White Knight, where the question was brought up: can we use the Batmobile from the Michael Keaton movie after you had done it for like 15 issues?
Yeah. Yeah, my editor, she's like, all right, this looks good. I'm not sure we can show the 89 Batmobile, though. And I'm like, Brittany.
This was it was literally like the last issue of Beyond the White Knight.
Yeah. So there were Since 2017, my book's been out. Since 2017, the Bat 89 has been used in my universe. So I think
it's literally a joke. It's literally a joke in Beyond the White Knight that the Joker's like, this fucking car again.
Brittany's she's like, oh, I love that, but I'm not sure we can use that Batmobile. Like, Brittany, and I do like her, and I don't know what blipped in her brain that day, but I know she's embarrassed.
Everybody. Sometimes you forget you've been using the Batmobile for 5 years. Other times you think George Lazenby's been dead for 5 years. I don't know.
Times, man, yeah. I mean, the Jack Napier thing was not an easy sell, and they didn't pay attention when I used his name as Jack Napier, and
you didn't
I didn't think it would be a big deal.
You didn't have to like clear that or anything?
No, I know we talked about this before, but I wasn't sure because I know Jack Nicholson gets a piece of every single Joker thing forever and ever as part of the deal he made in 1989. So using Jack Napier in anything, it's a gray area. But I had already written the book and drawn stuff, and again, they didn't think it was going to be a hit, so they sort of just let it go. But that might have been a big deal because no one in the comic has used Jack Napier outside of an 89 Batman adaptation.
Yeah.
And when I showed them that Batman the Animated Series had used Napier twice, they seemed to calm down a bit, but I don't know, man.
Well,
that's weird.
Shows you how well-oiled a machine these big companies are. It's like, I mean, it's like you hear about it all the time where it's like, oh, the CIA and the FBI don't talk to each other ever. It's like, well, it would probably be helpful if they did.
Yeah. Is that like a plot thing in movies, or is that a real life
I think that's
grudge?
Relative. I think that's real. Like, I know that the creation of the FBI was due to the fact that just there was no communication across state lines and stuff like that. So they needed a government. I mean, it was the movie Zodiac gets into that a lot, and that was in the 70s where these different police precincts and stuff aren't talking to each other, and they, the jurisdiction only goes so far and stuff like that. What I'm saying is we need a police state. We need a overarching police body to control crime.
Now we're talking.
Coast to coast.
Yeah. Mitigate crime, you mean? Oh, wait. I guess you basically said that. It made it sound like they were doing crimes.
Everyone needs a chip in their heads.
I liked... Because I lived in many different states in this country, and whenever I got pulled over, I got the sense that there was no kind of permanent record, a national database where they could see that I had been pulled over in Massachusetts or had a parking ticket in L.A. or whatever. It just seemed like the cop was very in the dark, and he's like, well, we don't have anything on you from California, so slow down. He didn't go, 2 unpaid parking tickets in Sequoia National Park. Thought you could run forever, huh, asshole?
That's probably for the best, honestly.
It's funny. I was at the Pentagon. A reader of mine works there and has literal top secret. And he gave us this tour. And afterwards, we're in the parking lot, and there was some construction.
You're talking
going
about
on.
the Pentagon Bar and Grill in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, right?
Yeah. Near the Pentagon, it's Washington, D.C., so there's loud highways going everywhere, and they were constructing this new giant sort of statue thing for the Air Force. And he was telling me about the drama because I'm going to get this wrong, but I think there was some big parking lot over there, and they decided it was too old, and they just knocked it over. The government bought it and said, well, what can we do with this? And the Pentagon had a quick answer, like, well, let's just do whatever. Let's just do something for the Marines. And the Air Force got pissed off. So like, fuck that. They already have this. We don't have our own monument. And it started to be a big red tape, millions of dollars wasted trying to decide who should get. So if it speaks to how these different organizations in the government don't like each other and are constantly fighting, then it does happen.
Yeah. See, I feel like the Air Force would have an easy trump card there, though. We're like, all right, that's a big statue. Get our biggest plane and park it in the front yard.
Yeah. We want the largest plane in the smallest parking lot.
Yes.
In front of where the Army is.
Yes, exactly.
Or the Navy. We don't care.
Anyway.
Especially because there's a lot of Navy and Air Force crossover because Navy pilots are thing was, aircraft carriers.
That's
so
true.
There's already a lot of hatred between those two, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's too bad. Everybody should just get along. and work together on killing people abroad.
Let's focus on the real enemy. Anyone who's not American.
The story with the friend is funny because Richie, the guy played by Robert Patrick, I was watching this going like, Richie's not really a bad guy here. He gets kind of caught in the middle of whatever's going on with what the fuck is the friend's name? I can't remember the friend's name. Charlie. Charlie, and then Wolverine Hands guy. And then when the monster Charlie comes back, Richie's like, "Hey, I didn't ask you to bathe in the shit. I'm just the middleman here." I felt bad for Richie as much as you can feel bad for someone like that.
Yeah. The other reason why this feels not so Highlander, his young apprentice was named Richie.
Oh, yes.
Also a kid who grew up in juvie, had crime, and met friends. It was very much the same trope. And I think that's why this just feels so tired to me. I was thinking, like, if I want to give this one a 2, it's probably a 3, but I want to give it a 2.
Yeah. I would say it's a 3.
It is.
The show,
I know it is.
They just keep dancing with interesting stuff.
Yeah.
But never.
The goal is to point and go, there's probably some really deep stuff that just happened between these characters. We'll just sort of hint at it, and we'll move on to a fight scene now. Whereas Batman the Animated Series would actually show you the interesting stuff that happened.
Yeah. And I don't know. Maybe it's enough for for kids of a certain age, where it's a taste of this kind of stuff is enough to make that sort of impression. Because it's their first experience with these kind of stories. I don't know.
Yeah, but Batman the Animated Series, I knew it was more mature than I was. I knew it was doing things that I wasn't used to. I knew that I could learn from this. It wasn't just there to entertain me. Like, I knew there was something to discover about, like, why is this hitting on so many levels and in ways that He-Man and G.I. Joe don't. Like, it made me want to grow and learn about why it was so good. I don't know if, as a 12-year-old, and I wasn't 12 when this came out, the 12-year-old audience for this and Batman Beyond, is this really trying to get these? Are these the future storytellers of our generation? Is there really a lot going on in these scripts to really challenge the audience and help create the next generation of Batman creators? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Are we out of touch? No, that can't be it. It's the children if you're wrong.
It's the children. So I know you have a heart out, and I did tease Last Driver, so we should just talk about it for 1 minute.
Sure.
Just to say we did.
We hit it a bit in the last episode too. So.
Okay. So I'm starting to write the script for the in the future. No one knows how to drive anymore. Everyone's in these automated wimpy pods, kind of like Minority Report. And someone needs to do a heist, and they get this guy who's 65, and he's kind of like Snake Plissken, but a wheelman. And he does this heist across this mega city, and as he does it, it's kind of like a vanishing point where he awakens discontent within the many classes that are watching this police chase unfold. You've got people in the deserts who are basically, conservative and, more religious, whatever. People in the cities who are liberal and, giving up a lot of their freedoms for safety, these overreaching cops. And yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Like I think one of the reasons why Tokyo Ghost and Punk Rock Jesus landed so well with my readers is it seems like when I do stuff that's kind of political, but not too much, people really like it. So I really wanted to do something about sort of the current culture war, but cloak it in a car chase story. So, there's a lot of meat on the bone if you're looking. There's a lot to digest if you're looking for it, but if you just want like a straight up action story, it can be pretty light as well. So I wanted Clay to help me with this because he helped me conceive this idea like 2 years ago and helped me write the script and even do like a 24 or 48 page, whatever it is, like one issue in the middle, just like I did with Von Freeze. But yeah, that's kind of what we're working on. It's called The Last Driver. It'll be the next thing. I'll be working on this solely for the next like 6 months, and then probably doing another Kickstarter.
Cool. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, and it's funny because you've helped me write, but normally it's like I'll pay you as a side editor and you just help me sort out ideas and lend a few of your own. It's not ever been 50-50 sharing the script. So even though we have a very good working relationship, I'm interested to see if we can work together more intimately without stepping on each other's toes and getting the ideas that we each want to do.
Yeah. I'm happy that you brought me in specifically to take half of the political blowback you're going to get on this book.
The main character is half Native American, half black.
Off to a good start.
There's some stuff in there that I know Clay would probably rather avoid because you're more conflict averse than I am. But dude, believe me, people are going to come after me, not after you. And I don't think there's anything in there that bad at all. I think people are just a little bit too testy these days.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Anyway, good stuff. Yes, I have to run, unfortunately, but that's going to do it for Inqueling and Big Time. Thank you guys for listening. If you want to help support the show, head over to patreon.com/thepensky file, where we've got a whole bunch of stuff going on over there. And we'll be back next time. Thank you, Sean, for joining us, as always.
Thanks, Clay. Appreciate it, man.
See you next time.
Can't wait to show you my new Volvo with sweet podcast speakers.
Yeah. I'm happy the future has caught up to Bart Simpson's understanding of cruise control. We'll be back next time with Out of the Past and Speak No Evil. See you guys.